Setting Friday Free, a Busby Beach novel by D.W. Davis, published by River Sailor Literary. Chapter 1. Finding a stranger floating in his pool when he got home from his first day of classes at the University of North Carolina at Wilmington was the last thing Garrison expected. Although Garrison thought she looked beautiful in her one-piece white bathing suit, performing a lazy backstroke with her long, tan legs gently propelling her toward the shallow end of the pool, her surprise appearance nearly scared him into making a puddle on the deck as he came out of the house wearing nothing but a towel around his neck. His plan to take a quick dip to refresh himself before starting on his homework assignments came to an abrupt end. An uninvited guest in his pool was unwanted and unwelcome. The girl noticed Garrison and screamed. She stood in the shallow water and started yelling at him. "Who are you? What are you doing here? Why are you naked?" Garrison snatched the towel from his shoulders, wrapped it around his waist, and replied, "Because this is my house, and no one else is supposed to be here? You're in my pool, and I didn't invite you. Why don't you tell me who you are and what you're doing here?" The woman stared hard at Garrison with such dark brown eyes that the boy could barely tell where the pupil ended and the iris began. "This isn't your house," the girl said, her voice trembling somewhere between fear and anger. "It belongs to Freddie's parents. Are you Freddie's friend? I haven't seen you here before." "I don't know who Freddie is or where he lives," Garrison said, tightening his grip on the towel as it began slipping. "You're in the wrong pool at the wrong house, and I want you to leave." The girl slapped her hands on the water. "If you're going to bully me, then I'll leave." She swam to the deep end, climbed out, adjusted her bathing suit, and grabbed a yellow sundress off one of the poolside tables. Without looking back, the mysterious girl pulled on the sundress and walked to what Garrison believed was a solid wall, pulled a lever, and stepped toward the wall. In a blink, she disappeared. By the time Garrison found his voice, she was nothing but a memory. He blinked hard, shook his head, and told himself he must have been seeing things. Maybe I should get out of the sun and get my homework done. Between homework assignments, Garrison considered the odd set of circumstances that led to him living alone in the house he inherited from his grandparents. His residence on the estate began after high school graduation, when his mother sold her house in a gated community near Wrightsville Beach and moved into a one-bedroom condo on Harbor Island. She'd made no secret of wanting Garrison to move to the house in Busby Beach once he had his diploma in hand. Garrison was never made privy to why his grandparents left everything to him instead of his father. He only knew they had become estranged long before he was born. His phone rang as he finished his Spanish homework. Seeing Dad on his screen surprised him. Phone calls from his father were rare. His parents had divorced before Garrison was born, and he'd only visited his father in Raleigh on alternative weekends. Frederick R. Kaler, J.D., LLM, was a senior partner in one of the largest regional law firms in the Southeast. Garrett picked up his phone and swiped the icon to accept the call. "Hello, Dad. This is quite a surprise. What's up?" "Hello, Garrison. Why are you surprised that I called to see how your first day of college classes went?" "Your executive assistant reminded you, didn't he?" "No, he did not. I remembered on my own." Garrison knew his father meant his executive assistant had set a notice on his calendar. Ross wasted no time on small talk and launched into his standard reminder to Garrison that it wasn't too late to change his major and put himself in line for law school. Garrison, grown weary of his father's constant harangue, said for the umpteenth time, "I can still apply to law schools with an English degree. In fact, an English degree fits well into teaching me what law schools are looking for in a prospective student. The problem is, Dad, I don't want to be a lawyer. No offense, but if I ever have a wife and kids, I want to spend time with them and not be married more to my work than my family." A heavy silence fell on the other end of the line. Finally, Ross said, You've made very clear how you feel, Garrison, about the legal profession in general and me in particular. I won't bring it up again." They said goodbye, and Garrison, acknowledging the rumble in his stomach, went to the kitchen to prepare dinner. Meals were simple for him. Each week, 7 nights' worth of restaurant-quality frozen dinners for one were delivered to the house. Mrs. Nelson, his part-time housekeeper, would put them in the spacious freezer. All Garrison had to do was take the night's meal out of the freezer and place it in the oven at the temperature shown and for the time indicated on the label. His Wednesday night fare was the traditional spaghetti and meatballs with a side salad and garlic bread. After dinner, Garrison retired to his grandfather's library to read his history assignment. Upon finishing the assigned pages, Garrison moved to the family room. The family room boasted a large flat-screen television and state-of-the-art video game systems. Playing video games wasn't an option when Garrison lived at his mother or visited his father. They didn't believe a young man should waste time on video games that could be better spent studying or reading. He frowned, thinking back on how his mother had controlled what he could and couldn't read. Dr. Andrea Armstrong, a highly respected surgeon, discouraged her son from reading fiction other than what she considered the classics. Reading histories and biographies was allowed. Science and medical-related materials were also among those his mother approved of. When he was only 4 years old, being diagnosed with type 1 diabetes gave him an added impetus toward learning all he could about the disease and how to cope with it. More than anything, he hoped someone would come up with a treatment that would allow him to discard his insulin pump. Garrison stayed up late playing video games, wondering if he'd